Good evening, friends. It's indeed a great pleasure to see so many people, especially so many women, coming out to listen to some of the most important things that are happening in this country today. As you know, for a long time, the RSS and its political party, the BJP, had been dreaming of making India into a Hindu Pakistan, a Hindu Rashtra. So, after they came to power here in Delhi, and for the second time when they came to power, they felt that they can now implement their agenda of making India into a Hindu Rashtra. And they basically wanted initially to make Muslims into second-class citizens in India. But they thought of a more sinister plan, that by this package, this is a package, the NRC, the CAA and the National Population Register, these three things are one package. And they thought that by this package, they can not only make Muslims into second-class citizens, they can in fact make Muslims into non-citizens in the country. So, they thought of this very sinister scheme that they will bring or they will implement the National Register of Citizens across the country, which will be designed in a manner so as to leave out anybody that they want to leave out from the Register of Citizens, and in particular the poor who do not have documents like birth certificates, land records, they don't even own land, or school degrees, school or college degrees, because they have not been to school or colleges, or they have lost those degrees, they have lost those documents. So we need to understand how this National Register of Citizens, the National Population Register and the Citizenship Amendment Act works. So first, some local official, the government actually, Mr. Modi announced in a speech recently that no, there is no talk of any National Register of Citizens, despite the fact that his own Home Minister Amit Shah had said on multiple occasions, inside Parliament as well as outside Parliament, that a National Register of Citizens will be implemented soon throughout the country. Then Mr. Modi said that no, there are no detention centers being built in the country. That was also false. Assam already has several detention centers, and more detention centers are being built in BJP-ruled states. Then they said that soon, 2 days thereafter, the Modi's cabinet took a decision to start the National Population Register exercise from the 1st of April this year. But they said that this National Population Register has no connection with the National Register of Citizens. It has nothing to do with citizenship. This is also totally false. The National Register of Citizens will be based upon the National Population Register. So under the citizenship rules of 2003, some local officials will come to your houses, ask you various questions, ask you to show them the documents that you have. Questions will be about your birth, they will ask for your birth certificate. About your parents' birth, they will ask for their certificates, and they will ask for you to show proof that you are the children of those parents or grandparents. And thereafter, the local official, if he feels, and no rules have been made about what is the basis on which the local official will mark you as a doubtful citizen, then that list goes to the district magistrate for that district. District magistrate finally decides which of these people he considers to be doubtful citizens. Their names are removed and the other names are now transferred to the National Register of Citizens. So the National Register of Citizens is made on the basis of this National Population Register exercise. Once you are marked as a doubtful citizen by the district magistrate, you will have to appeal to the foreigners' tribunals. And in the foreigners' tribunals, we have seen the working of these tribunals in Assam. They have functioned in a totally arbitrary, inhuman, illegal manner. So the people who are appointed to these tribunals are not judges. They are appointed essentially by the government in consultation with the high courts. They are either retired bureaucrats or government servants, or they are lawyers with 7 years of practice or 7 years of enrollment. Most of them do not understand the law. Most of them do not even follow the law. And their extension, their appointments are made from year to year, for 1 year at a time. And their extension depends on how many people they have declared to be foreigners. The more people that they declare to be foreigners, the greater is the chance of their getting an extension for another year and then for another year, etc. They have been issuing notices to people without even mentioning their names or addresses. So sometimes notice will come Alimuddin Siddiqui plus 27 others. Which 27 others nobody knows. With the result that those people obviously don't go before the tribunal, and then orders are made by the tribunals behind their back without hearing those people, and therefore more than 2/3 of the orders passed by the foreigners' tribunals in Assam have been orders without hearing these people. They have declared them foreigners without hearing them. And even when people come and show all the documents, firstly, a lot of poor people don't have documents. Secondly, many of them cannot engage lawyers. They spend a lot of money traveling to these places, engaging lawyers. Many of them can't engage lawyers. Even if they are able to engage lawyers, many of these lawyers are incompetent. And even if they show all the documents, even then in many cases, these foreigners' tribunals still decide that you are not citizens. And once the foreigner tribunal holds that you are not a citizen, then you can be put in these detention centers where you can remain indefinitely. The cost of doing this NRC exercise, see one problem, so there are several problems at several levels in this exercise. First problem is that the burden of proving that you are a citizen is placed upon you. And if you are unable to prove that you are a citizen by showing these documents, which many poor people don't have, they don't accept oral evidence. They don't accept any other evidence, only some documents that they want, which many people don't have. So normally, if I don't have any document, if I give an affidavit that I have been born here and I have lived here for the last 50 years, and I give affidavits of 5 other neighbors or the village headman supporting what I am saying, then that should be accepted as proof of your citizenship. That's what the Supreme Court had said in an earlier judgment, that you cannot ask for any particular set of documents to ask people to prove their citizenship. Firstly, of course, this business of putting the burden of proving that you are a citizen on you, rather than the government or the state having to prove that you are not a citizen, is totally illegal, against the principles of normal jurisprudence. When you are accused of a crime, the police has to prove that you are guilty of that crime beyond reasonable doubt. Only then you can be sent to jail. Here, you can be sent to a detention center if you fail to prove that you are a citizen, without the state or the government having to prove that you are not a citizen. Secondly, they are asking for certain kinds of documents. That is totally illegal. The Supreme Court had said that you have to accept any evidence which is relevant, including oral evidence. But yet, they are asking for particular kinds of documents. And then, the manner of functioning of these foreigners' tribunals is totally illegal and arbitrary. All in all, this process of preparing the NPR and the NRC is a totally arbitrary process where you will be at the mercy of the district magistrate and these people in the foreigners' tribunals who, as I said, are not judges, are not independent of the government. Therefore, it's a very hazardous process which is designed to keep out poor people in particular, and if the machinery implementing this process is a communal machinery, which will be the case in BJP ruled states, then they will purposely keep out Muslim people out of the NRC in particular. Then they say, this Amit Shah has been saying, no, Hindus, Sikhs, Christians, Jains and Buddhists don't need to worry because we will make them citizens through the Citizenship Amendment Act. So what does this act say? The act says that anybody who is a refugee, who has fled these three countries, Pakistan, Bangladesh or Afghanistan, due to religious persecution, and if he has come before December 2014, he can be given citizenship by the government. Firstly, this is totally unconstitutional because the Constitution prohibits discrimination on the basis of religion. This discriminates against Muslims because Muslims are not mentioned. Secondly, the law is totally arbitrary because it arbitrarily picks out these three countries, Pakistan, Bangladesh and Afghanistan, and leaves out other countries from where refugees have come to India, such as Sri Lanka, Myanmar, Tibet, Nepal. All those countries are left out for no reason at all, and the Supreme Court has said that any law which is arbitrary is unconstitutional. This is clearly arbitrary. Then it says only religious prosecution. People have come as refugees escaping every kind of prosecution. It could be ethnic, it could be political, it could be linguistic or any other kind of prosecution. Why only religious? It's also arbitrary. And then saying that only people who have come in before December 2014, why? Why this arbitrary cutoff of December 2014? So it's totally illegal. But Mr. Amit Shah has been saying that all non-Muslims who are left out of the NRC, they don't need to worry because we will bring them back in by giving them citizenship as refugees under this Citizenship Amendment Act. Now, in order to get citizenship through the Citizenship Amendment Act, you have to say that you have come as a refugee from Pakistan, Bangladesh or Afghanistan. Most of these people would have said from before in their affidavits before the magistrate or before the Foreigners Tribunal that they are Indian citizens. Therefore, if they now say that they have come as refugees from Pakistan, Bangladesh or Afghanistan, their application is liable to be rejected. Not only that, they are liable to be prosecuted for perjury, because you can't file false affidavits. So this is a ruse. What they want to do essentially is to tell all the district magistrates that you leave out Muslims from this, and then we will see what happens. And to place Muslims at the mercy of the government by first taking away their voting rights. As soon as they are left out of the NRC, their voting rights will be taken away. Thereafter, by threatening to put them in detention centers and make them like bonded labor almost, this is the plan. And as I said, this is a much more sinister plan than their earlier dream of rendering Muslims into second-class citizens. So, it's a very, very heartening thing that a lot of people across the country, especially the youth, the students, and women in particular, have come out on the streets against this totally unconstitutional, discriminatory law which threatens the very foundation of the republic that we had established. And in this process, I have seen that the people who are coming out in protest in this movement against the CAA and NRC, it's growing. Across the country, this movement is growing. And in this movement, there is a lot of political education taking place of people. A lot of opportunity for Hindus and Muslims to come together for this movement. Hindus, Muslims and people from all communities, Christians, Sikhs, and to understand why we made this into a secular country. What are the benefits of cultural, religious, ethnic diversity in a country like India? How it benefits all of us, and how love and brotherhood is far more important and useful than this politics of hate and divisiveness that the BJP and the RSS have been practicing. So it's something, as Charles Dickens said in his Tale of Two Cities in the beginning, he said, it was the worst of times, it was the best of times. We are in that moment of time in this country where on the one hand, this fascist BJP, RSS government has unleashed terror on the people of this country. On the other hand, so many people, especially the youth, have stood up against this terror and have stood up to reclaim the republic. And whenever there is a conflict between forces of evil and forces of good, if the forces of good have also got up, as they have now, and are willing to pick this fight against the forces of evil which they have, then the forces of good always win. And I have no doubt that in this struggle and in this new movement that has been ignited across the country, the youth of this country, where new youth leadership is also developing in this country, the youth of this country have risen and will rise up to reclaim the republic. I have no doubt about that. I just wanted to mention briefly this other menace of which this government has unleashed and is using, that is the Unlawful Activities Prevention Act as well as the National Security Act. These are again two laws which are designed to authorize the government to detain people without having to prove their guilt in any court of law. Under the NSA, they can detain you preventively for 1 year without any questions asked. They just have to say that you are a threat to national security and they can detain you. without having to prove this in any court of law. Totally unconstitutional act in my view. Unfortunately, the Supreme Court had earlier upheld the validity of this act, totally wrongly in my view. It's totally unconstitutional. It's an assault on Article 21, the right to life and liberty that the Constitution has granted. Similarly, the Unlawful Activities Prevention Act. 2 young students have been recently arrested here. What is the charge against them? That they were in possession of some Maoist literature. And on that basis, the police says that they are members of unlawful organizations, therefore they need to be arrested. Firstly, these are just charges that the police make. Secondly, how does possession of literature make you a member of an unlawful organization? And on what basis does the government declare organizations to be unlawful? Now they have also further amended the UAPA to allow the government to designate individuals as terrorists. Without proving anything against that person in a court of law, they can just designate you as a terrorist and put you behind bars. Totally unconstitutional, totally draconian laws which need to go. And there needs to be a movement against these laws as well. Because these laws, you see, are being used against citizens, against people who are standing up against the CAA and the NRC and the NPR. They are being used to crush the civil liberties and the civil rights of people, the right to protest, the right of free speech, etc. So we need to also include a campaign and a movement against these draconian laws also, along with the campaign against the CAA and the NRC. As I said, I am quite hopeful of what is happening in terms of this movement against the CAA, NRC and NPR in the country, and I hope and I expect that this movement will continue to grow and we will be able to reclaim our republic and restore our country to what our founding fathers had imagined. Inqilab Zindabad.